Hi, good morning, guys. It is early. It's like about 6 a.m. today, and I wanted to make this quick video before going to work. It seems that early in the morning is the easiest time for me to make videos, and I wanted to sort of record my Japanese learning progress so far as of today. Um, I think I've been studying Japanese for since October, so probably like about 10 months now. Yeah, I'm closing up into the year, and it's interesting how there's this little cliche where a lot of YouTubers were recording about their Japanese learning process, and they say that in the last 3 months is where they've learned the most. And I think that's sort of rings true. Like it's more like the more you study, like the more and more Japanese you understand, the more and more Japanese you learn. And that's been really exciting. So I'm in that process of realizing that, wow, I'm really accelerating on the Japanese I'm learning. And typically, it's sort of, I want to talk about the methods that I've been working on that's had worked for me. Um, Here's the thing about like study methods. Like, I believe that no one studies or acquires like language the same way. I feel like most of us, we sort of have different things that interest us, and things about studying that works for us, and things that about studying that makes us stress out. So we typically find methods that are, you know, comfortable for us and also are effective, so keeping the information intact. So that's, I want to put that caveat there before talking about study methods, because I think it's just, they just feel very individual to the person. Um, and one of the things I've been doing, I've still been doing Anki. I've been doing that. I think it's called Keichi or Kenshi, the 1.5K deck, which has like the little illustrations on it. That has been really fun for me. I've been enjoying that. I know a lot of people talk about the 2K, 6K deck, the core Anki 2K deck. Um, I tried that one, and I don't know what was with mine. Maybe somebody can explain. It was like yellow background with like some, like a font that was very like this very ornate font that was very difficult to read for someone who's not used to reading Japanese. So it was like I just didn't like how it looked. Personally, it was like hard to. The yellow background made it hard to read for some reason. I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't like it. Maybe I downloaded the wrong one, but just didn't look like the ones that people on YouTube were showcasing. So I was a little bit confused. Um, so I dropped that one, and I found that other, even though it's less cards, it's just easier to read, and I've been enjoying it. See, that's what I'm kind of talking about. Find things that are comfortable for you and just run with it. It doesn't matter. Um, and then I don't know how far along I am, and I haven't really looked. I think it's like probably 300 to 400 known cards now, like cards that I've seen them, and I'm familiar with them. I don't know them; they're not mature, but I've encountered them. So I think I'm getting close to possibly like a quarter of the way there. If I get to 500, it's like a quarter of the way there. Um, or a little bit more. It's like a third if you get to 500. Um, but anyway, and then the other thing I've been studying is Genki. So I know people are pretty much like, I don't know. I feel like a pretty vocal minority in the language learning space are very much anti-textbook, which I don't understand why. Textbooks are great, and I've been enjoying the Anki textbook a lot. Um, I'm currently on lesson 5, learning about adjectives. It's been a little confusing. I might have to get a YouTube video to sort of give me, I guess, a different explanation. I feel like the ones in the book, it's a little bit, I don't know. guess it's like it's missing something. But it is more straightforward than verbs. I feel like verbs in Genki are they overly complicated, and adjectives are pretty much, you know, straightforward. When it comes to like positive and negative, and then um, future tense and past tense adjectives, it's pretty straightforward. The one thing I'm kind of not 100% sure of is what is a na adjective and an e adjective. It just doesn't seem to be. I don't know. Maybe it's explained in the book, but I just didn't quite grasp it because I can't really figure out what is a na adjective and an e adjective simply by looking at the word itself. And I know, like in verbs, right? You look at the verb stem, and then you would look at what the word ends in. Typically, the dictionary version of the word, right? Like there's like eru verbs, iru verbs, and ru verbs. So it's like that's sort of like the group, the general grouping of it. I know other people use different terminologies. Like I know Toki and Andy talks about godan words and ichidan verbs. So it kind of gets those different distinctions. They're basically, you know, it's just a way of marking which ones are different types of verbs because they change depending on the conjugation. Like the verbs at the end, they change. But with adjectives, they don't have that explanation. So it's, you know, it's either these are the non-adjectives, so they end in a certain way, and these are the e adjectives, and they end differently. And you just have to remember that basic rule. So it's, and a lot of people are saying, well, then, you know, you can memorize all the grammar rules you want, but, you know, you're not going to be able to retain it once it comes down to actually reading or speaking. And that is, for the most part, true. So another way that I've been kind of trying to fight that, and hopefully these, like, you know, the grammars that I've been studying Genki kind of stick, is that I'm reading notes here, I'm sorry. So I found this YouTuber called Mike Learns Japanese, and in it he was talking about how, you know, I think one of his recent videos he talked about how why you don't need to learn kanji, which is, you know, obviously clickbaity. Of course you need to learn kanji, you need to study kanji, but not studying in the way of memorizing each and individual kanji by itself. Or I think what people do is like they study the different parts of the kanji. I forgot what they're called, but it's like, you know, like each kanji is kind of made up of different words. But there is a way of studying kanji while also retaining the information and using it in a practical way. And what he suggests, which is actually something I've been trying out, is to read graded books, basically. And there's this website called Todaku that has free graded books of like various levels. So there's like some really basic, like hiragana only graded books that use a lot of images and pictures to sort of teach early readers how to read. So people who are early on in their language learning journey could, if obviously, you know, you need to know at least a lot of all of the hiragana and kana and katakana to sort of understand what the book is trying to tell, like the story. You can use the images, right, to help you, but man, knowing the hiragana and katakana is like, you know, great, because then you're actually learning and it sticks to you. There's also audio, which I appreciate, so it helps with pronunciation too. So if you kind of shadow what they're saying, it helps a lot to kind of get the pronunciation, you know, as best as you can. Obviously, the best way to improve your pronunciation is to talking to someone in Japanese. But yeah, I've been enjoying Todaku. I've read like about maybe 5 of the really easy graded books that I understand like 90%. 1 or 2 words that I haven't seen, don't know what they mean, or some grammatical, like it's like different sentence structures that I haven't seen, which is interesting. And that's actually like important, because if you're solely studying from textbook, And again, I'm not saying I'm anti-textbook, but I'm just saying if you're only studying from a textbook, you will get a lot of repeating sentence structures that are grammatically correct, but that is not how most Japanese people speak, and that is not how most Japanese people write. So you will encounter a lot of different sentence structures that basically mean the same thing in the textbook, but it's just totally different. It's more colloquial, or it's more to the point, right? Because of obviously Japanese people prefer to shorten the sentences, because it's just more efficient and it's less robotic and it's more natural. So if you're encountering more native and natural speech and writings, you're gonna find shorter sentences with different sentence structure. So it's good to, at least for me, getting used to that. And graded readers are actually been pretty beneficial. One last thing I wanted to talk about is that people learn differently, right? So I'm of the idea that I like to use multiple tools kind of at the same time, just to give my brain sort of variety and feel like I'm learning a lot. I use Anki, so I have like an activity that is about memory, and I treat it as a game. Basically, it's very gamey for me because there's numbers and there's streaks and stuff that works for me. I treat Genki as just more of a focus, purely reading and knowledge based sort of activity, something I just want to like read just to kind of understand, to introduce myself to new concepts, not necessarily to like forcing myself to memorizing, but at least introduce myself to like, hey, listen, this concept exists and it is real, and you'll eventually need to use it. You need to be aware of it. So I appreciate that. And like the last thing, like Dodaku, which I'm gonna put it in like the fun study category, because I have been having a lot of fun with Dodaku, and it's like kind of reading for almost like the joy of it, not so much as to like studying. And sort of for me, it's like finding, oh wait, I've seen this word on my Anki deck, or I've seen this word or this sentence, this expression on Genki, and then sort of that creates like the little, people love to talk about the neural pathways, the neural links, to sort of really solidify that information and sort of acquire and retain that language, at least that little part of the language. The last thing, I'm reading my notes here, it's hilarious. The last thing I found, this other language learner called Language Jones. I'll put a link of his channel in the description. And he made a video recently about comprehensible input that I really like, and I feel like more people should actually take the time and watch it. He primarily focuses on like the sort of misconceptions that people have about comprehensible input, and like the theoretical and hypothetical sort of structure that's supporting it, right? Because it is a theory based on another theory, and there's like a lot of conjecture. So, and I know it's like I sound like I don't make any sense, but basically what he's trying to say is that a lot of people misunderstand Krashen's like idea of comprehensible input, and they sort of assume that all you need to do is just listen to the language, and then eventually somehow through an osmosis process you'll be able to comprehend the language and like get it right. And like input basically means the language you are trying to learn, and comprehensible means that you understand it. So that's sort of like the theory, right? And he proposes a very interesting idea that I haven't heard anyone talk about, and that is comprehensible input. If it's done, properly, it can be very beneficial for people with ADHD, because people who, according to the video, people who are or language learners with ADHD have difficulties learning language in specific ways. There's just some learning methods that just don't work because it just doesn't help the student engage with the language in a way that works for them. So ADHD people need to sort of engage with something that stimulates their brain, keeps their attention, and doesn't stress them out, but also teaches them the language. And comprehensible input sort of is a possible solution for that, which I find interesting, how they can engage with the language be stimulated by it, not get distracted, and not be stressed. I think that's the most important thing, right? Find the method that doesn't stress you out, because this shouldn't be a stressful process. This should be a fun and engaging and very exciting process to learn the language, right? To discover a different culture, to learn things you didn't know about the world that are totally real. And it's like, you know, it should be super fun. It shouldn't be like a stressful. This isn't like a test that you're going to get graded on, unless of course you're taking something like the JLPT. Then yeah, I mean, it's a test. But you know, yeah, you should only be stressing out the moment of the test. Once you're like in your journey of learning the language, should be, I don't know, it should be fun. I believe it should be fun. And I think most people agree, because that's like the why we are studying Japanese, is because it's fun. So yeah, I will put the links to some of the stuff I've been talking about in the description as best I can. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. Right now, for the rest of the week, just going to be doing my Anki decks. I will try to finish the lesson 5 on Genki, and I'll probably maybe give my thoughts on it, and maybe quickly review adjectives again. And then I'm not sure what are my goals for Todaku. I think I'm just still playing with it. And I'll let you know how it goes. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Bye.